Good morning, everyone. We are live on YouTube already, but there we are. And hopefully LinkedIn will be going momentarily. There we go. Good morning, everyone. This is Danielle Ralston, and
Vida Carey.
we are from ND Out Loud, and we are both ADHD coaches, but we are both, more importantly, AUDHD women.
Yes.
And I have been an ADHD coach, therapist-ish person. I say therapist-ish person because I didn't finish my licensing because I don't like the rules. Part of why we're having this conversation. But I have been doing this for 25 years. I have 30 plus certifications, and Vida is a teacher.
Yes, I was a teacher for 15 years and a special education and a behavior modification specialist for at least a third of that. And late diagnosed ADHD, working with people have special needs, brothers and sisters, and it's just like my life is saturated with neurodivergent people and the neurodivergent space. And as I was growing up, it was really hard, I think, to fit into the workplace. And it was a lot of high level masking.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I obviously have worked corporate, and I still take corporate consulting jobs. And right now, Vida and I act in a consulting capacity. We act as corporate ADHD coaches. So we work for businesses helping their ADHD and ADHD employees be less overwhelmed, have less burnout, functional skills, all of that. And it comes with and working for someone else and being in a workplace, we need accommodations. And when you're ADHD, those accommodations look very, very different than most people think.
Yeah.
Most people think of accommodations of needing a special desk or a special keyboard or a special light or a special mouse or needing more time to get something done. And while some of those could be very true, because I will tell you a sit stand desk when you are ADHD is the greatest thing in the world because we need more movement. A keyboard that isn't clicky or is mega clicky, depending on your spice of ADHD. Sometimes we like lots of physical feedback and loud feedback, and other times we need silence. So some of those things may be accommodations, and I have clients they certainly are, but the accommodations that most of us need, especially female ADHDers, are very different than you might think. So what are some accommodations that you find make your life easier in the workplace?
It's funny because even doing IEPs for students, and I was a high school teacher for a long time, but I also taught all the grades. So I did IEPs for kids from kindergarten through 12th and getting them ready to go on into college. And everyone thinks, I mean, like hands down, everyone thinks, oh, you mean they get extra time on tests? That is not the only accommodation. And being an adult in the workplace, asking for extra time on a project or something is not the only accommodation that you can get, right? It's just the one that most people think about.
Yeah, because they associate need disability with time, just more time, and you'll be able to do the thing. And in all reality, that I need less time 99% of the time. I need less time to do the thing than most people need. But I need more instructions to get the thing done.
Yeah. So transcribe notes for meetings, meeting agendas, things like that. Those are very, very easy accommodations for businesses to do that generally don't cost a ton extra. They're already paying for like meeting software anyway. So getting the transcription, and that's just good for everyone. But those are easy accommodations. If you're in an office building, like blue light filters on the fluorescent lighting in your office or wherever, you could actually even do that for yourself. It's very cheap. They're on the internet. if you look at Amazon at like special needs accommodations or things for special needs classrooms, a ton of really great things come up that people don't think about unless you're a special education teacher. And it's like a wobble seat, right? You just put it in your office chair to where you can wiggle back and forth a little bit for your extra energy. There's so many low cost, easy, silent accommodations that people can do. But to do that, people have to be open-minded about giving their employees what they need. And I feel like every time you go to like an HR or things like that, and we definitely need to bring Dr. Jessica on here to talk about it, but it's like there is this their frame of mind is reactionary, right? It's like, I need this accommodation, and then it like presses on some insecurity that they haven't been serving you, and then they get really defensive about it, and it's like, well, you haven't been serving me, that's why I'm asking for this accommodation.
Well, and they're like, well, my favorite one, and I've been dealing with this with a current client, was she went to HR and her boss and said, I need an agenda before a meeting, at least 2 hours before a meeting, so I can process and come with questions and come with data if I need to. I need transcription of the meeting, and I need a recording of the meeting after the meeting so I can re-listen to it, make sure I haven't missed anything. And HR's like her boss's response was, if I give you those accommodations, I need to give everyone those accommodations. Well, heck yes, you do. Those accommodations, they aren't accommodations. They are reasonable expectations that should be given to everyone, whether they're neurodivergent or not.
Yeah. And so that's the thing why I always say like these are low cost, free, easy accommodations, because those are generally the ones that you can get them to do first, right? And a lot of times you just need permission to accommodate yourself. Like, I'm going to wear loop earbuds. Like, these are things that you are used to accommodating yourself. You just may not know it. Or this was my personal favorite, and I asked for it and it blew people's minds. I will only respond to emails 3 times a day. Like 8, noon, and 4:30, because my accommodation is I need you not to distract me.
Do you want me to do my job? If the answer is yes, then don't be sending me messages every 5 minutes in a Slack channel or a Teams channel or whatever it is. And I'm only going to answer emails 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I have an employee who wants to be super productive all day. Why is that offensive to most business managers?
Well, okay. And here's the funny thing. If you talk to corporate level efficiency experts, they will tell you that employees do not need to be plugged into an instant messenger or an email all day long. They don't, because it makes people inefficient. If a corporate efficiency expert says it, it seems to carry more weight than if a neurodivergent person says they need this accommodation. But here's the reason why I think that it's like, okay, it's coming from this corporate efficiency expert that we really just brought in to check a box to say that we had an efficiency expert in here, but we don't really plan on listening to them.
Yeah.
The other thing about asking for accommodations like transcription of meetings and meeting agendas, that means your manager or your boss has to be very clear about what they want. They cannot hide in vague incompetency.
And I kind of said that to my current client. And I said, ooh, this sounds like you have a manager who is, let me ask you some questions. Do they tell you to do something? You take careful notes yourself, and then they go back on and say, well, that's not what I said. She goes, oh, all the time. But I write things down word for word. I've even recorded it with my own phone in my pocket. And I could prove that they said, and I'm like, that's the problem. You don't have it. It's not an accommodations problem. So often I tell my clients that don't go directly to your boss unless you have an amazing boss who's already like really, really awesome about any quirkiness that you have. Don't go to your boss, automatically go to HR.
Yeah.
Just go above their head. So some of the accommodations that I always need, I need transcription. I would love if closed captioning on Zoom calls was more of a thing.
Yeah, I do think closed captioning, okay, because even if, like, first, there's neurodivergent people that are aware they're neurodivergent. Then there's this whole subset of people that are undiagnosed neurodivergent. And then there is this group of neurotypicals that may just be able to do their job better because there's closed captionings on. It's just like, it's just a thing that's not going to hurt anyone.
No, not at all. So closed captioning for me, I need multi-sensory input in order to comprehend something a lot of times. Video does help. So video and audio, obviously, if you're on video, you've got audio at the same time. That helps. And that's pretty good for me. But adding closed captioning is a huge, I process things faster. Now, my processing speed is pretty dang fast already. So that might actually annoy my boss, just saying. But it is something that really helps me. And it also helps me pay attention more to action items and things like that. You lose me in a Zoom call after, okay, 15 minutes is my max on a Zoom call that I can be fully tuned in and fully active. That is another accommodation that is for everyone, that is not just for a neurodivergent. You want to know how long most people's attention span is? A 2-hour Zoom call does no one any good, and it probably could have been an email.
Well, 45 minutes is really tops for meetings. That's why most classes, like if you want to look at people that understand the behavior of efficiency in learning, look at a school. And yes, I understand that schools have tons of problems. That's a soapbox I could get on all day long. But 45 minutes is top end. And even Ted Lasso told everyone that most people have a 7-second memory. It's about the goldfish thing. So you have to make things extremely interactive if you want people to remember them. You have to hit multiple senses. And yeah, you can't just swim in the mire of just meetings and emails, because I'm going to tell you something. Most work can be done for jobs. It's like, if I were to take kids out of a school system and put them in homeschool, and Danielle knows this because she's homeschooled her son too, most work for a school day can be done in about 2 hours, maybe 4 if it's really advanced level stuff, because there's not all of this starting, stopping, like social time, others, things like that. It's the same with work.
So I could, if left alone, and it does depend on the project, because obviously as a coach, when I'm coaching all day long, that's an all day long thing. That's not
right. But we're meeting with people, and meetings are different than independent tasks.
Right. But independent tasks. So when I go in as my clients that I do corporate consulting, I do operations consulting for sales teams and IT teams. So I go in and look at, okay, these are all the systems you're looking at. This is all of the things that you've got. And these are how many meetings a week you have. And I don't do, I mean, it is efficiency, kind of an efficiency expert, but I tell you what you need to do. And then I give you software systems and standard operating procedures to do all of the things. And I've been doing this for years. And when I do that, most consultants, and I've talked to other consultants that do the same thing, take about 3 months to do all of that. And one of my clients, I charge about a quarter of what everybody else charges in my industry, because they charge $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 for a 3-month package. I charge $20,000 at most. If I have to go on site, it's $20,000. If I can do it from home, it's $10,000. And everybody's like, how can you do that? I'm AUDHD. Hello. I go in. It takes me about 4 hours to see what everybody's doing, ask questions of a few people to find out how they're doing things, and then go back and go, this is how you can fix it all.
Yeah.
I can do it in less than 30 days and have all the operating procedures in place, not 90 days. When I am allowed to work at my own efficiency level and I'm allowed to just work, I can get things done in a quarter of the time anybody else can. And we're not allowed to in the corporate workplace.
But that's the reason that, I mean, COVID was scary for a lot of things, but it revolutionized things. And for some, not all, but for some neurodivergent people, working remotely at task or project based I mean, they killed it. They like were doing amazing things. And then there are people that definitely need
More structure.
yeah, more structure.
So structure that I see a lot of my clients needing. One, they need better written and verbal instructions. So they need them written out before they go into a meeting, and then they need them verbally.
If you're giving verbal instructions, no more than 3 pieces of information in one setting. You
Mhm.
can't say like, "I need you to clean your room and load the dishwasher and do all that." You can't give them a whole list. It really no more than 3. It's the magic number.
In writing, no more than 3. In a task, in a project management tool, as an ex-project manager, for God's sakes, your projects that have 9,000 different subtasks that make 0 sense because you felt like you had to verbally dump every single thing on someone does not help anybody, and nobody's going to get the task done. Those are the projects that fail. Projects that start out with the hierarchy of the major tasks, and then the team breaks the tasks up per person so that they are 3 tasks per person to get this done. And this is phase 1. And we only see phase 1 tasks, and we get phase 1 tasks done. Then we discuss and we do phase 2. Those are the projects that get completed. And that is with a team of neurotypicals.
Yeah.
Neurotypicals also need things broken down into smaller tasks and make it easy. All of this huge task list and these huge productivity tools that you have to use, and you have to do all of these things. Nobody gets that stuff done. Nobody does have that stuff.
Well, and okay, the goal for any business is efficiency, productivity, and dollars and cents, right? Like inefficient employees cost money.
Mm-hmm.
So accommodations are saving you money. Anything that you can do to help your people communicate better and work more efficiently is going to move your bottom line in the direction you want. So it is investing in the front end to grow in the back end
Mm-hmm.
and invest in people's behavior.
Oh,
Pixar
yes.
knows this.
Absolutely. Okay. I have comments on LinkedIn, and you think I could see them. So, Jessica, I see you commenting, but I cannot see your comments for nothing on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is making it very difficult. I'm sorry, Jessica. I apologize that I cannot see your chat. So, understanding that accommodations are for everyone, like everyone needs accommodations. I'm sorry, without a doubt. And I really am trying to see your comments, Jessica. I just cannot see them.
Let's see if I can go see it.
That drives me nuts sometimes about LinkedIn. That does that to me. It's a couple times I've had that problem. Anyway, so I will come back and answer any comments or respond to them afterwards, I guess. But the accommodations, like everybody needs these accommodations, and you could have, if you have neurodivergent employees, AUDHD women specifically. Yes, you can see them.
I can see it. Jessica says checking in and feedback, short and concise information. And then she says, "Hey, ladies, great subject." So,
Hi, Jessica. Thank you. Yeah, you need to check in often, and having an accountability team member when you're on a team. If you're a team of more than 4 people, your boss shouldn't be the accountability person. There should be a point of accountability on the team of just checking in, making sure things are flowing, making sure somebody doesn't need help. What can I help you with today? How are you doing today? You want to know what that makes you? Oh, a kind human.
here's the other thing that I think about too. Okay. So, people get promoted and they become managers. Very rarely do they have management training, and people can become managers and people can be upper admin and people can be all these things and not necessarily be a good leader. So how much uh managerial training, how much leadership training, like does everybody know what the point of the day is, right? So a check-in meeting could be as easy as a team huddle that says, here are our priorities for today, and give your team 3, and then do you know like, what's your first task? What's your first task? And walking around and then letting everybody go and do their thing. And then maybe coming in at the end of the day and be like, where do we stand on these tasks? And that informs your next day. But being a good leader is a nuanced thing. And being a good manager of neurotypical and neurodivergent employees takes practice and it takes training. And so if employers want to make their business more efficient, you can accommodate your workers and you can train your managers and upper admin on how to manage a diverse team.
I would say if you definitely like I'm working on I have a startup that I'm working with that they're very autistic and they hired me to be the non-autistic brain. But the reason why they hired me is because I have experience with it. Because I've done the leadership training, I've ran whole teams. They were looking for somebody who had that. They didn't necessarily care if I understood how to build their app or work in their app or understood anything. They're like, we can show you those things if we need to. We need somebody who understands working with autistic people, because they had tried to hire somebody who was like good at that tasks that they needed, and that person was terrible at helping manage them.
Mhm.
And it actually caused some major financial issues for them because this person was so terrible. If you have any neurodivergent people on your team, again, huge mental health issues, bipolar, whatever, ADHD, autism, um, autoimmune, if you have somebody with autoimmune
Yeah.
issues, any of those things, if you have those people on your team, you should be going to an ADHD coach, an ADHD coach, somebody, and hiring that coach to be your coach to work with your team members.
Yeah, I do. I think that it should come in because we talk about invisible disabilities a lot in our world, but in corporate consulting, you're talking to these businesses, and it's like if you had an employee that had a wheelchair, you would make sure that there was a wheelchair ramp.
Mhm.
So if you have employees that have invisible disabilities, you have to make sure that they are adequately accommodated. It's not just the right thing to do, it's actually a federal law.
Mhm.
And, that's that leads into whether, like, people feel comfortable disclosing their disabilities or not. They don't have to, but the reason people don't feel comfortable disclosing their disabilities is because they don't feel like it's safe to do that, and
Mhm.
that is a culture issue in your place of work.
Always, yeah, have an open culture. And when people express that, hey, we don't feel safe with XYZ person, if you have neurodivergence coming to you as an upper management person about their manager or whatever, you need to listen. Because let me tell you, especially if you have ADHD women saying it, there's a problem
Mm.
because ADHDers, specifically women, pattern recognition, especially when it comes to emotional and organizational intelligence, is out of this world.
And when you do something enough to trigger the pattern recognition, like, it's a real thing. If someone is coming to you that's like, "Hey, I've noticed that this over time," like,
When I think one of the best things I have when I worked in IT, I had an employee who was super engaged and active for a while, and then all of a sudden they stopped being really active and they got really quiet and they stopped participating and stuff. And it occurred to me one day, I only do that when there's something wrong. Like, in that situation, there's something wrong. So I went to them and said, "Hey, what's going on?" And they're like, "Well, I said something to my manager about XYZ, and they told me that I was just being overly sensitive and didn't know what I was talking about. So therefore, you guys aren't worth my brain power anymore. And I'm just waiting until I can find another job." That's a red flag when your team, when you have a neurodiverse team and they stop being an amazing part of your team. Because an ADHD, especially the ADHD, autism spectrum NDers, we're going to give our jobs every single thing that we have that's part of us. We're going to learn how to new things. We're going to become experts at new things for you. The minute we stop working and stop participating and stop is the moment that you have a major issue either on the management team or with something going on the team. There is something wrong and you better fix it or you're going to lose one of your best employees.
A lot of employees that come to us as corporate ADHD coaches, I would say probably at least 25%. I end up counseling them on finding a better place to work.
Almost always. I have one who I was like, no, step up. You know what's going on, step up. And I said, don't step up to your current manager like you've done 50 times and they're not listening. Go to the next level above. She just got promoted to the head of her department because she went to that upper boss with a whole entire list of this is what's wrong and this is how I can fix it.
Yep.
Does that always work? No. Workplaces are not always that accommodating.
It doesn't, but I do. I think that anytime employers get feedback that their employees are not being served or need an accommodation, they take it personally. And it's like, I am not saying that you're a bad person. I am not saying that this is a bad place to work. I'm saying that I'm advocating for myself and I need an accommodation that says no bearing on you as an individual. Like it's people take it super personally, but it's the ability to take negative feedback, right? And neurodivergent people get counseled on this all the time because we are supposed to be able to take feedback and have it not trigger our RSD. So I need the people in HR, I need the people in upper management to also be able to handle negative feedback. It's a skill.
And I don't know how many times this has happened to me so many times where we will step up and say to a manager as an ADHD person, I'll step up and say to somebody XYZ and this is how we fix it and this is the issues we see and they'll say you really need to check your emotions. You're being over emotional right now. Oh, if I stepped up to talk, I've already gotten beyond my emotions and my emotions are packed away and they're not part of this conversation because I have to get through my RSD and my executive dysfunction and my processing issues in order to come to you and say something. So I've already put that away and I've already done that. Thank you very much. And I have had managers tell me that often, like I have heard that 100 times over the years. If I have to put if I'm putting the effort to come to you with solutions and in an issue, I've already gone through all of that. Emotions are gone. And I think that I don't know if that's a female ADHD experience specifically. I think it may be, but maybe not. I'll have to ask a couple of my ADHD men if that's something that they deal with. I would bet that that's a more female experience having a boss tell you that and having to deal with that. Because men do have RSD and all of that too. So I know that they deal with those things, but I would bet that as females, we hear that from managers more.
Well, I mean, like my husband has ADHD. And when he voices complaints at work, it's generally that he's just hard to work with and a complainer.
Okay, so they don't get the put your emotions away to get your emotion. They don't get that piece of it, but he still hears a variation of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a more manly version. It's like, that's just him. He's, but it's like, why? Anyway, that's a whole different subject.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. So ask for those accommodations. If you're not sure what accommodations to ask for, Dr. Jessica, who's been commenting below, even though I can't see it, go to her. She is amazing and fantastic. Vida and I, we work with people every single day to help them, one, figure out how to adapt their workplace to be a better, more efficient and all of that. And we can do that for a whole entire team. We can come in as coaches and help you with your neurodivergent team. I do this all the time. Actually, I'm doing it next week. I have a seminar that I'm doing for corporate, but make sure that you are listening to your
Yeah.
NDP. If you are a regular boss that is not on the spectrum, get your managers, become the manager who understands, invest the time into your ND people, because if you do, they are generally the fastest learners, the most adaptable to changes in situations, believe it or not, even though we'll tell you that we transition slowly. Once we transition, we've got you, and we'll become an expert at anything you need.
I mean, I used to go into giant school districts, like, and train, like, presentations to the whole school, like, this is how, like, it was really about this is how you communicate to people, and most people want to feel safe, seen, and heard.
That's
That's,
it.
like, the 3 things, and so it is getting everybody past their own issues to create that environment.
You need to, as a manager, as a leader, be a safe space, listen to your people, and adapt where needed. Adaptation is needed for everyone. And again, I don't care if if you're neurotypical, neurodivergent, whatever. We need to be more adaptive as managers. And I'm talking as somebody who has a whole entire team that works with me that is all neurodivergent. I have neurodivergent teams. I had a whole entire team of 25 autistic men at one point that I worked with. I can tell you stories up and down of learning how to manage them. And I'm ADHD, and I still had to go to specific training to learn how to manage them.
I mean, it takes practice, like, most people aren't coming out of the box just knowing how to do this. I
No.
went to college, been a teacher for a long time, like, worked in behavior modification, had lots of extra training. Danielle's had 25 years of lived experience and training, and, like, but it's okay to outsource to experts when you don't know.
That is, if you staff your weaknesses. Always staff your weaknesses. I don't care who you are, what you do. Always staff your weaknesses. If sweeping your floor is a weakness to you, get a Roomba. If managing a team of, I don't care if you have one ADHD person on your team, or ADHD, or autistic, or whatever on your team, one person is enough to staff your weakness in that area and learn.
Yep, yep.
If you have any questions for us, like I said, Dr. Jessica, that's below. Those of you watching on YouTube, if you have any questions, just comment. Please leave your comments. We're always happy to answer your questions, and we're happy to help. We want those in our community to live better lives, and we will jump through hoops to make sure they can. Have an amazing day, everyone.